piece. So feel free to get it ready and get it out. I got my special a couple different things Tuesday. So you can go to your dailies and find it there. Created in colorings as of late. So I got some fall colors in here, some autumn, a Frankenstein, pumpkin spice. So I'll probably use a lot of those, but if I need like I have a hard time making a true black, like if you call it. So I just wanted to touch base on that. So I'm really excited to do this with you guys, because why not? And I'm going to do a blue. I'm going to go to my fade, get my colors in there. Just want to make sure we're not missing anything. I might be sounding kind of choppy a little bit, so sorry about this, guys. Okay, here we go. We just had to play around with my connection. Hope everybody is getting this. First time bugs, all good. All right. Okay, so all I did so far is I did some fade on my sky. And just to recap in case anybody missed it, this is a daily. It's from this past Tuesday. It's free for everyone. So if you want to go into your dailies and color along with me, that'd be awesome since this is a live color along. I'm just going to restart just in case anybody, like I said, missed anything that I was saying. Yeah, so I think that things should be okay now. So yeah, okay, let's get started. So I'm going to go to my fade tool. I'm going to make kind of like a spooky Halloween type sky, and it's also going to kind of help with my shading for the rest of the piece as I go. I'm going to make sure that I'm on freehand mode. And I'm going to start. So I just picked out some of my fun autumn colors that I was going over with you guys. I've made quite a few because I've been coloring a lot of fall pieces lately. And I'm just going to use pumpkin spice. And I'm going to go to this dark blue here. And like I said, I'm on my fade. And I'm just going to tap it in. You can also use fade this way. You can also drag it across if you want. I can do it both ways, doesn't really matter. I just want to get that deep kind of indigo blue spooky sky going on. Then I'm going to tap on a little bit of a lighter blue here. I'm going to go to my bloom. And I'm just going to try and get like a misty, it's a little bit too bright actually. I want it down a little bit, do the opacity a little bit. I just kind of want to get like this misty blue look. So I brought down the opacity. No, I don't want that. And I just want it kind of hovering over the house, will you? Like moonlight from the moon there. Okay. And then you can also bring up your opacity if you want to get a little bit of the darker color in there. I want to be very gentle with it though. I don't want it to be too stark. So you see how you're getting like that glow there now? And then I got my darker sky in the background. Good start. And then I might even grab a purple just because. I'm on my airbrush tool right now. I kind of just eye out the sizes. I'm not super precise on them, so I don't go, okay, I'm using 60%, could be 57. I just kind of eye it out. I try it. If it's not right, I press the back button. Not a huge issue. So I'm just going to kind of add some pink, kind of almost like a red sky night that's going to look like, but with like more like a purplish hue. Just for some fun. can darken up the corners a little bit. I might even put a little bit of stars in the sky. We'll see. So again, this is a daily from past Tuesday, free to everyone. So don't be shy to go grab it and color along with me. So I'm just kind of testing things out. I do want some darkness in the corners too, and my fade didn't quite reach that far, but I do want the lightness in the middle, so that's perfectly fine. So I'm just going back to my blue. I'm just kind of filling it in where I do want it dark. Probably darkest towards the bottom more than anything. I want to get like this creepy feel happening. Okay. Sorry about the glitch earlier, guys. Hopefully it's good now. Now I'm just going to zoom in on my sky. It really helps when you color to zoom in and focus on what you're doing. When I first started coloring, I didn't even know you could zoom. That's the funny thing, but it really does help you actually make straight lines. So if you want to make a straight line and you're doing something up close, people go, how do you do a straight line? Zoom in as close as you can and you can make a straight line. I'm using the airbrush, but you could do it with technical pen, many different things. Okay, so I'm going to grab that bright pink. And I'm just going to try and get a little bit of that in there too. Just a little. I don't want it too much, but I do kind of want like this atmospheric layered sky look. Just a little bit though. It is a night sky, so I'm not going to go too crazy with it. And I think I'm going to do a blue moon. But I'm going to start out with a dark because I'm going to do some highlighting on it after. So I'm just going to go, actually, no, I'm going to go to my, I'll go to my fills. I'm just going to go to maybe a regular fill. And I'm just going to tap that moon. And now it's dark right now, but I'm going to add some layers and some highlights to it. And for that, I'm going to go to my airbrush. And I'm just going to kind of very gently, very, very gently, just kind of add this little bit of a glowing effect on this moon here. The harder you press, the more dramatic it's going to be, right? You want to press very lightly just to get a little bit of that color in there. And I'm still on freehand mode because I do want to create a glow with my moon around the edges. I switch back from freehand to automatic mode quite a bit, depending on what I'm doing and what my needs are. So I just want to get like a little bit of that glow around the moon. And I just color matched my old color. I could have went to my recent. I just want to blend it out a bit. I don't want to have a super dark line. Just get a little bit of a glow. And if you want to intensify that glow and you really want it to stand out, then you can go to automatic mode, pick out that blue again. I'm using airbrush, but you could also use laser, which I might actually touch base on. And just lightly brush it around the circumference of your moon. And it'll give you that glowing moon effect. And then if you want to make that effect come out a little bit more, there's another little trick that you could do, is you can go to bloom and just kind of give it a little drag there. And you kind of get like this glowing moon, but I don't want it to be that big, so I'm just going to use my airbrush. But you can do it anyway. There's many techniques. I'm just going to stick to what I want to do for this one, but if I can give a couple of tips and tricks along the way, I will. So I just want to use the blue to create the glow because I want it to be like a kind of freaky night sky. So I'm widening up my brush size and just kind of making it go a little bit further, and it's gonna actually reflect on this house when the house is colored. Okay, so we'll leave that like that for now. I'm gonna get my trees and everything filled in. I got a brown here, so I'm gonna use, but I'm gonna darken it up. And then I'm going to actually use the pillow for this part. And then you can just tap. There's going to be light hitting these branches, so I'm going to want it to be darker towards the bottom of the tree because it's a lot closer to the moon, the branches, right? And that's what pillow does. If you, I'm sure all the avid users know, but maybe new ones don't. Whatever end that you tap, it'll be darker on the other end. So it's lighter on the one, darker on the other. And I'm actually going to deepen it up a bit. I almost want these trees to look black. I want it to be real spooky. Okay. Now that we've done that, I'm actually going to work on the house a little bit. I'm just kind of thinking about what color I want that house to be. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to go out here and go to my Frankenstein because I'm thinking I'm going to do kind of a grayish, brownish type palette. I remember I created some kind of accidental weird gray brown that I liked from Frankenstein. So I'm going to use that right now. And I'm actually going to go to my wood tool. And then I'm just going to have fun with the wood. You can actually cut a lot of color in time. You know what? No, that's going to take too long. I'm going to just cut it with, I'm going to do it all with pillow, and then I'll go over and make some texture with the wood. So pretty simple. I'm going to tap through the middle because I want my shading towards the edges. And then I'll add some wood detailing after. Sometimes it cuts time to get down your color first and then add detail after. It's usually what I do. So I'm going to stick with that and do it today as well. So I just want my shaded part to be towards the edges of the house. So I'm just keeping that in mind, but I can always fix and touch up the shading after. So I'm not too worried about it. It just helps, like I said, time saver. This is going to be a little bit off kilter because of all the segments in between, but I can always touch it up. It's not a huge deal. And that little kitty is going to be black at some point. Gotta have a black cat. Okay. Go towards my edges. Around the window can be dark too, but I can always touch that up with shading after, which I will do on freehand mode. I'm just kind of tapping and filling in all these areas of this house. This is a gray. It kind of was supposed to be a gray, but as I tap it, it almost looks brown. I don't know, I really thought it was cool, so it was an accidental creation. That's why it's fun making your own palettes, because sometimes you think you're making a color and then when you go to use it you realize, oh, that's different but cool. I'm just gonna keep on tapping until I'm done filling the house. That looks pretty good for right now, but I'm actually gonna deepen up that color and I'm gonna fill in these kind of posts. I'm just going to get it all filled in, and then we'll add texture and highlighting after. I'm using the pillow, but if you wanted to cut time again, you could use the regular fill and just cut. You could just go right across with it and it would fill. sometimes when you get those little spots, easier also to zoom in a little bit closer. Wanted to do kind of like a Halloween theme since it's coming up. I love Halloween. So then I'm just trying to get these two different layered effects of color. So by adding shading and highlighting and kind of offsetting color, you get depth with your picture. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to use this not so real black. It was supposed to be black, but it turned out almost like a smoky hickory brown. It might look black on the camera though. And I'm just going to use that for the lattice. And I'm still on pillow fill. I'm going to keep this kind of classic spooky wood old house. Okay. Kitty looks upset. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the tiles, but I'm thinking I'm just going to keep them dark because there's going to be some highlighting on that roof from the moon. So it doesn't really matter if I do it dark because there's going to be some luminescent fun happening on there. And I'm just going to fill in that door too. Why not? And maybe even the windows. I kind of want this whole house to be kind of dark, dreary. So I'm just going to get all my color down and then I can tweak it and work with it after. So that's what I'm going to do. It's usually what I do. And these windows, they are probably just going to honestly go black. I know it looks cool with the broken look of them and everything, but I just kind of want a very dark looking house. Make a really spooky house. We might leave some of it, we'll see. And then for the roof, I'm going to use a similar, I want to see if I can get just a little shade of difference of a color. Oh, it looks pretty much the same. That's okay. And I'm going to keep the pillow because I like how it's helping out my shading. And I'm just going to tap the top of the tiles so the shading is toward the bottom. I'm sure some of you might have already have colored this. So if you want to add to your coloring or just watch and enjoy, you can do that too. Since it was released on Tuesday. Oh, little spider up here. I almost missed that little guy. Gotta have spider for Halloween too. Okay, so we're almost done all our filling. I just got to do this and then the bricks up top, which I might do in a deep red. So we're almost to the fun part. I call the fun part shading and highlighting because that's really where you get to see texture and your picture starts to come together. Not so much when you're just filling the color, obviously. Oh, his little face there. Not sure what I'm going to do with him yet. It's almost like a little search. You could have like a little search and find in here. Okay. And then I'm actually going to go get my true black just because I'm going to need it. And I just want to fill in some of these areas. I don't want them to be grass, I just want them to be shadowy. So I'm just going to make sure that everything, even back there, it's further away. Even over here, maybe this should be black too. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to my colors and yeah, I guess I'll still use Frankenstein, or I could even go to my recently used, but I still want some colors from here. This red I'm going to use, I'm going to darken it up. You might not even be able to tell it's red, but I'm still going to just kind of make these bricks a dark red. I kept them a little bit lighter towards the top. Not that it matters because I'm going to probably highlight over it. There I go, dragging my thumb across the screen as usual. So there we go, we're starting to get somewhere with this. And then I had this. Just finish filling in these last couple of windows I missed. And I just want to see something. I think I'm just gonna make these windows black, honestly. And I might do something to bring out the cracks later, but for now, I think having them black is really spooky. So I'm just going to fill those all in black. Okay. Now that I've done that, I'm going to use my wood, which I wanted to use. You might not see it a whole lot, but I just kind of want to get some rough wood grains. I'm just going to experiment with color a little bit. Just going to go on freehand mode there for a second. I'm just going to kind of drag it across the lighter area of, like, because I shaded towards the outer edges. So I'm just going to do it across the lighter areas of the house. I might have to switch back and forth depending on where I am, from automatic to freehand. I'm not going to do a lot of it. I just want like a touch of this distressed kind of wood looking area. Hold on here a sec. Okay. Just going to turn up the volume, make sure everybody can hear me. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Okay. I turned up the volume a bit, guys. I don't want you guys to hear me sound like I'm all muffly. Okay, I turned it up as much as I could. Hopefully you all can hear me nicely. Okay, so I'm just going to continue on brushing this kind of wood grain throughout the house. It doesn't have to be everywhere because I want it to look distressed anyway. So if you have it more in the front of the house than on the sides, it really isn't going to affect the overall look of the house. I just want the overall effect of wood to be part of this haunted house here. Okay. See, I'm not being precise with it. I'm not filling in or anything. I'm just going, and you can even, like I said, switch to freehand mode if you want to cover an open area and just kind of drag your brush. You can't see it a lot. It's just going to add texture to your picture a little bit. So when you look back, you kind of see, oh, it looks kind of weathered and worn and torn, what we want, right? And I'm actually going to go back here for a second and get my black back. I might start going to my recent colors. That's what I usually do, but I just wanted to kind of touch base on making your own palettes and whatnot. So I'm on freehand mode still, and I'm actually going to leave it there because I'm going to deepen my shades around the house. So I don't go by particular brush sizes. Like I say, I just kind of feel it out. So then I'll go to my picture and I'll try, okay, that's good. So then I'll use it. you kind of get a feel for the tools, as if you're, especially if you're a tenured user and you use Pigment a lot, you just kind of get a feel for it after a while. So I'm just going to go around and add deeper shades to where my pillow is hitting, and even around some of the windows I'm going to add some shading. I'm just going to make sure I don't bleed into my sky, but I really don't care if I get on my grass or anything, because I still have to color that. And a little bit of black in the sky wouldn't hurt, I just don't want it to be overpowering. So we're going to make like this rickety looking house. One of those houses you were scared to walk by when you were a kid. I think everybody has one of those in their town. So I'm just going to shade around the windows a little bit too. And it's not going to be like a even shade, just even if it looks like distressed. Just trying to add texture to the house. Not losing the wood grain that I did, but just kind of adding to it. I'm not worried about getting shading on the spindles or anything like that. This cat's going to be black, but I might not be able to see him too well if I do that. Make this house look spooky. Distressed and spooky. So you see how it's really starting to kind of take form of a spooky house now. It's really looking dark. It's really looking kind of gloomy. If you wanted to do something fun or make it unique, you could always make the little like small things like that face and stuff stand out. But for this purpose, because I want it to be spooky, I'm actually just going to, another quick trick, if I might, if you don't want something in your picture, it's really easy to just kind of cover it up with black. So it's like that never existed. And then you can use your airbrush after to just kind of blend around it. And then you'll never even know that that was there. It just looks like a shadowy area. I've just found sometimes I have an idea for a picture and then this one item kind of gets in the way and it's like, oh. And yeah, you can definitely just blend it out with black. Black is almost like an inverted eraser. Instead of erasing, you kind of just shadow it out. Maybe I'll make the kitty gray. And even here I want to add a little bit more darkness to the brick because it's standing out quite a bit. I do want that little bit of red hint, but it doesn't need to stand out that much. There. Not too bad. And then I'm going to go back to my colors, and I'm going to go back to my like pumpkin spice. Kind of weird to have blue and pumpkin spice, but I needed the blue for something, I forget. Okay, so, and then I'm going to stay on airbrush, stay on freehand mode, and with this blue that I made the sky with, I'm just gonna kind of get it in there, just as a highlight on the roof. It's almost gonna take, I don't want it to take away all the red, but I do want a little bit of a highlight here. I know there's such minuscule details, but the more details you do, the more little details you do, it's really what kind of makes your picture, your final piece. It's all these little details that people notice, like the glowing of the roof, or just even when you're doing portraits, highlighting, all that kind of stuff. So there's that blue kind of highlight on the roof. I also need a true white because I'm horrible at making a real true white apparently. So I'm going to go down here and go back to my my good old black and white palette. And I'm just going to add a little bit more highlight to it, just a bit. I just kind of want it to, it's what I call layering highlights. So I'm just going to brush that layered highlight across the roof, just to give the outer edge a little bit of a glow. And you can also widen it out by bringing up the brush size, but you want to tap very, very gently. It's too big. It's probably better where it was, like around 5%, I guess. And it just kind of gives a glowing effect to your roof. And I'll go over any additional highlights I want to do later, or if I want to layer it more, I might bring out the laser. The laser makes also like kind of like a glowing highlight, which might come in handy with a haunted house and ghosts and everything. So the ghosts themselves, I'm kind of hemming and hawing about. I think I'm going to use a darker gray. I'm going to put it on automatic mode, and I think I'm going to go to my balloon. I'm just going to try something. I kind of want them to stand out, but not really, if that makes sense. Kind of want them to just be there, but not there. So I'm just using the bloom to kind of fill them with color, and then maybe a little bit of white. And you can even make them glow if you want to. You could try and bring up the laser. Bring down your opacity though. You can give them a, let's go to freehand mode. And you can give them a little bit of a glow if you want. Kind of have to play with it though to get the look you want. Just to kind of make them stand out, but not really. Just make them a little bit spookified. Like his head. He had a big white dot in his head. There we go. That's better. And then this one's kind of in the shadows, so maybe I'll just do the side, like a phantom ghost type picture. Touch it up just a little bit. The less you, like if you put the opacity on low with laser, you can use it as a very fine highlight if you press gentle, which is kind of nice. I figured that out because I use the laser quite a bit. So it works for that as well. I actually also use it for highlighting skin a lot when I do portraits. So I'm just going to kind of give a little bit of a glow to the side of the tree where he's sticking out. Maybe a little bit more down here where he's sticking out, and over here. Just to kind of show where they are. And the spider, I don't want to make him all black because then he'll disappear. So I will just first put it on automatic. And I'm on bloom. Maybe I'll put it on pillow instead. Nope, too light. Maybe I'll just add a little bit of a quick highlight to the back of him with my airbrush tool. It's a small space. I don't want it to be too stark of a highlight. There, and you kind of can see the spider, but he's not abrupt. And then I'm just going to fill in this little spot here that I missed by color matching. And I missed one up here as well. I'm going to leave the glow from the ghost on the branch that naturally kind of went there. And we're starting to get a haunted house going here. I'm not going to do too much with shading of the trees and all that because they're already so dark. It would basically almost kind of be like wasting time. So the leaves now, it's kind of a tricky one because I do want some autumnal colors in there, but it's very dark at night, so they can't be bright. So maybe just some rusty looking orange. Yeah, that works. And I'm on pillow fill. So I'm just tapping on the end to get the shading towards the rounded part of the leaf. So there we go, we're getting something going here. It's a going. Okay, so let's do our grass and our pumpkins. And then at the end we can reevaluate our picture and add in any last minute highlights and stars. But let's just focus on getting our picture filled with color for now. I believe those are tombstones up here. So I have some greens here. I'm going to make them dark. Might as well leave it on pillow, I think. Yeah, I'll leave it on pillow. And then for this little dirt path, we'll do that. And then I'm just going to use that same kind of burnt, rusty orange for these leaves. So that's kind of the color they get when they start dying, start really withering away. They get like a rusty, orangey color. I have a million of them in my yard, as I'm sure a lot of you guys do. Okay, so this little pot over here, I'm going to just darken it up. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to go crazy details with it. A little bit darker. Just using some browns, different colors. I missed the spot here from the house. So if you press, I'm going to go here first. If you press and hold, color match, fill it in. Sometimes I don't notice until after when I've missed areas. Okay, and then let's do our pumpkins. So I have a couple oranges here. I'm not going to use a bright orange because it's a dark picture. And I can always add texture to things by using one of the other fills too, if you wanted to. But since this is pretty dark picture, I'm just going to stick with the pillow fill for today. Maybe touch base on the other fills another time. Here, 2 orange pumpkins. But I want to add a little bit of stuff to it here. So I'm going to go to freehand mode right now. But you got to be careful because it's kind of a small area. So I'm going to zoom in. Hope everyone can hear me well. I'm just going to zoom in. And I like skipping over the lines because I find sometimes when you're coloring, if you're coloring each individual spot but you're trying to do a widespread color like I'm doing like this, then it just ends up looking kind of broken up and not flowy. So that's why I use the freehand. When I want that flowy look and I don't want it to be interrupted, then I use it and it works really well. You can experiment with it for many things. I use it for a lot, but do whatever you're comfortable with at first. But it's not just for coloring grayscale, it's for coloring anything really. You can add it to all your colorings in different ways. Okay, so I'm just adding some kind of dark shades to this pumpkin here. I was going to make them jack-o'-lanterns, but I think I'm going to skip out on that, and only because it's very dark and the eyes are covered, they're already black. So to me that's like, okay, the lights are off, nobody's home type deal. Which you wouldn't want someone to be home because it's spooky. Probably freak you out. So I'm just going to deepen this green even more, almost as dark as it can go. It's not a big piece to color. And I might even shade it. So this is kind of touching base on how to make, like, use your shadows, right? How to really, I'm using airbrush now, how to really kind of make like a darker picture. It's all atmosphere. This is kind of an atmospheric picture that I'm doing right now, where I'm creating this dark atmosphere to kind of set the tone for this haunted house. And that's what I wanted to do, and I think it's turning out pretty good. So I'm going to leave the lighter parts of the orange almost like it's kind of highlighting. I'm going to use the bright orange just a bit. I just want to try something here. I'm going to keep it on airbrush. You're not going to see it a lot. Like, these are just little tiny details, like I said, but sometimes it's the little details that really make your picture stand out. So don't be afraid to try things, even if it's a small area. Like, look, I'm going back and doing something simple for a small pumpkin, but it's those little things, when they all add up in your picture, that's the wow factor, right? So, just gonna add a little bit more shading here around the bottom and top of my pumpkin, and then they should be good. Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna leave them like that. It's fine. They stand out more than I even wanted them to, so I'm just kind of covering up that bright orange a tiny bit. I just kind of wanted to come through the shadows. And if you wanted to add texture, you could do that too. So you could bring down your airbrush and kind of add the odd line to your pumpkin, just to kind of give it a hint of realism. Give it a little bit of texture, even though they're small. They don't completely stand out. But if someone is looking at them, have a little bit of detail. Pencil tool is really good for that. So if you wanted to, like, just kind of add some marks to your pumpkin sporadically. I didn't even look at my opacity, I just went with it. But just some, because, you know, pumpkins have black spots or whatever. I think they're fruits. They're fruit, aren't they? That's a good question. Fruit or vegetable pumpkin. So then you just kind of just add all these little, there. I mean, it doesn't super stand out, but whatever. It's just playing. It's just practicing. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And I'm going to keep my pencil tool out. Make sure I'm automatic, which I was because they changed it for the pumpkins. And I'm going to add some texture to this ground now. So I darkened up this brown, and I'm going to kind of just brush it across this ground lightly, just to kind of get this rough look. Then I'm going to get out my pigment palettes, go back down to my black and white. I'm going to grab the black, just going to shade a little bit towards over here. It just kind of makes like a mucky looking ground. And you could even lighten up that brown a little bit, just to kind of give it a little bit of highlights. If you wanted to do something fun, you could even put footprints in there. I mean, there's a million things that you could do. And my recently used colors, where's my black? There, I'll just use that. So I just want to blend that in just a tiny bit, so you get that little bit of light coming through. I'm just going to try to make like a rocky path. Back to my black. Since I couldn't find it in my recently used colors, probably because I didn't look hard enough. Just going to shade a little bit of other stuff too. Don't be afraid to use your pencil. I could have used it to add texture to the house. It's honestly, it's a free tool and it's a good tool. I love using the pencil. I'm just going to actually use it to add a little bit of muckery to this porch here. And maybe I'm just going to use it to bring out those cracked windows a bit. but not too much. Got my, just gonna put on automatic so it stays at the square. So you can kind of see the cracks, but it's almost like, you know, when you draw over something that's traced and then you get the outline when you use a pencil. Kind of like that. If that makes sense. So we just want to get like a little bit of that glare from that cracked window look. But the windows are still black. Okay. And then let's color this kitty cat here. I'm not gonna switch up. I'm just gonna use the pencil tool since I have it out. And there's a little bit of a bleed, so I'm just going to color it in myself. I might have to actually use airbrush. I'm just going to do a little bit of shading on this kitty. Kind of want him to be black, but I just want to have a little bit of like that gray color, otherwise you're not even going to see him. Okay, so there's like a gray, blackish type cat on the porch, and he looks freaked out. Probably because of the house. Okay. And then another really cool fill that you can use for tombstones and other stuff is the concrete fill. I think it works really good for the tombstones, but I want them to be really distressed and old, so I'm just going to, I want to make it so you can see the concrete texture. I'll just leave it there and then add some shading. So I'm just going to use it to kind of make that concrete look, and then go back to my airbrush tool. I missed a couple leaves here. And I always check to make sure I'm on automatic. I go back and forth so much. Sometimes I think I am and I'm not. So I'm just going to shade in these tombstones. If I could quit hitting the eraser button like I always do. Just kind of get in those, the grooves on the sides, and just kind of get it in there for the shading, the distressing. Doesn't have to be perfect, that's the whole idea. And I'm actually just going to touch base on this orange again because I'm finding it's still too bright for this picture. I'm just going to rub black over the mouth. I'm just finding it a little bit too bright. I want you to see the pumpkins, but at the same time, I'm going to bring out my pencil. And another thing about the pencil, the bigger brush size you use, the wider grain and spread you will get for texture. Maybe a little bit of a helpful hint. That's how I got the texture in the ground. So I want to keep some of that bright orange, but when I look at it from far away, I'm still finding it too bright. I just want the orange to kind of shine through the dark, distressing look. And that's because it's dark outside, right? And they're not lanterns, so they're not lit up. So there's no reason for them to really be super orange or super bright. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better. So we're almost done here. It's easier to color match when you have your pencil. So I'll go to pillow and I'll just finish these couple leaves off here. And you can also, if you're not satisfied with the texture on those, you can go back to your pencil, use the dark, and then just kind of rub it into if you want a little bit more textured look in those leaves. Make sure you're on automatic, which I wasn't. just kind of looking at the grass here, and the grass looks kind of boring too because it's just filled. So let's go grab a dark green and grab our pencil. Let's just kind of drag it around. Just want some texture at least. It's just flat. It doesn't have anything to it, so just a little bit of texture with the pencil, deepening up the grass in some spots. And get a little bit of a lighter area in others. And then if you go back up here, maybe I can find my true black. There it is. You can shade under your pumpkin as well. Just go to your airbrush or whatever you want to use. You can use anything, but airbrush just kind of, I like the way it spreads. So I'm going to use the airbrush. Just add a little bit of shade in some of these areas. Shading just adds depth. That's really what it does. It adds depth and it makes your picture look more dimensional. If you don't shade, it's just gonna look flat. Not that that's not good. I mean, if whatever you guys want your picture to look like, but if you do shade, it just gives your picture some dimension, that's all. But there's no one way to color. I mean, whatever, it's all about making yourself happy. So okay, so I think we're almost done here. I'm just going to use the black up here a little bit through here. You can't really see these bats, but this bat here you can't really see anyway. But that's fine. Just going to make this tree a little bit darker in areas. And then I'm going to do something. I'm going to actually use just a regular palette. I'm going to go to Vapor. I'm just going to try something here. Airbrush. I'm going to go to one of these bright blues. This is where I do my finer detail. This is where I step back, look at my picture, and think about things I can add or things that don't look so right. I think everybody who wants to improve or just wants to, you know, check out their picture at the end, it's a really good idea. Then you can evaluate your style, evaluate what you wanted to achieve, maybe fix a couple things before you go to publish, if that's what you want to do. So I'm just going to illuminate this a little bit more. So I'm just kind of adding random brush strokes around the moon with my airbrush tool, just to give an illusion of a glow. Instead of having it perfect all the way around, it's better to do it that way, because when you look at a moon, try to always kind of relate to real life and how things kind of work. If you look at the moon, sometimes that's the way it glows, but it could glow symmetrical as well. But in this particular instance, I would like it to be a little off kilter. I think it looks a little bit more, gives a little bit more realism in this particular case. Okay, and then we can add some stars too, if you want to add a couple stars. So for stars, I would go to, you can use airbrush, you can use technical pen. If you want to have a little bit of a glow to your stars, you could use laser. So I'm going to go to my laser. I brought my opacity all the way up, my brush size all the way down. I just want little stars. Don't want big stars. It's even too big, I think. And stars are really kind of sporadic and different brightnesses. So if you press a little bit hard in one area, but they're lighter in others, that actually makes it look more realistic. Because stars are not, you know, all the same. Some of them are far away, some of them are closer. Usually the ones that are in light are much lighter than the ones that are in darkness. I'm just going to go and tap tap around. And you can even try to add a little bit more luminescence to the roof. If you think that you want to, which I'm going to do right now just to try. These are all last minute touches. This is usually what I do with all my works. Like I said, I evaluate after. If I don't, which I have done before, if I don't evaluate, then I just notice mistakes after I publish or do something with it, and then I'm like, oh darn, should have looked closer. It's kind of highlighting some of the roof shingles with the laser. But you know what? I actually think in this particular case, which I like the back button, I like it more simple. I don't want it so illuminated. I think just a little bit is nice. And then if you want to do a little bit of illumination in the center, bring my brush size all the way up, my opacity down low. And you could even use a splatter tool to add some kind of like moon depth. And just layer that around. Grab the brighter blue. Then you kind of get some moon depth. You got a glowing moon, got stars in the sky, got a little bit of glare on the top of your house. The leaves are looking dark and creepy. I used pencil tool on some of them, but not all of them, but that's okay. So there you go. This is our creepy haunted house. Thanks so much for joining me today. Please comment on anything with the video. Like I said, this was my first time doing it. So if any suggestions or just want to give some feedback on the video, that would be great. And I hope to do one again with all of you shortly. If I don't talk to you guys for Halloween, have a happy Halloween. It's Breanne from Pigment today. Take care, everybody. Bye.